Hey guys, this is Eliot Marshall, former UFC fighter, and this is the Gospel of Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn the best way to live our life. All right, guys, here we are back with episode 5 of the Gospel of Fire, and my guest today is the lady who got this all started for us, for me. Erin Weed is here with me. I was recommended to Erin by a mutual friend who had worked with her in the past, and God, it was a match made in heaven, wouldn't you say, Erin?
I would say so. I think that first time we sat down, I was like, oh, he's going to be saying some awesome stuff, so let's do it.
And I met you, and my original goal was to do speaking, which I still want to do. Which I still think I want to do, but you took me to the direction of podcasting and Book in a Box, who's, by the way, changed their name. Did you know Book in the Box changed their name?
Oh yeah, they're Scribe Media.
Scribe Media. So, and both have just taken off from me in the last, I don't know, since whenever it was that we met. So, thank you very much, Erin.
Oh, you're so welcome. Honestly, for me, it's such an honor to meet people like you who have just big shit to say, and you're not holding back, and it's just unfiltered awesomeness. So I enjoy it. It's
I think you're one of those people as well that we need to be doing a little more of this in the world. We're too divided left and right, and I'm right, you're wrong kind of stuff, and I think there's a middle ground, and I think if we talk about it, actually, we might find some progress in the world.
Right on.
So, man, most of our relationship, I would say, has been you finding out about me, and I know so little about you. Tell me about you, Erin. Tell us about what it is and what it is that you do.
Well, I help people lead more authentic lives, and I try to help them in the personal life and as well as the work life. And I have this thing called the DIG. And it's really a process for helping people find their truth and narrowing it down to just one word. And I find that when people tell me their life story and I'm digging them and getting all these amazing things that they do and what they've been through, and sometimes they're horrible stories, by the way, but nonetheless, there are these stories that make up who we are. And I basically look at what are the truths that are over all of these stories and try to nail it down to one word and help a person find bigger meaning in their life by getting to that one word.
Why do you like one word?
Because life right now has gotten way too complicated. And when things get complicated, it gives us an excuse to be paralyzed and to not move forward with things. And so the hyperdistillation, I also find that people are incredibly relieved to have one thing in their life that's just simple and clear. And I often tell my clients that at any given moment in your life, you are either moving toward your word or away from it.
Huh. What? I think I agree with you, but tell me why. Why can't we just be stagnant?
I personally see stagnancy as moving away from.
Okay.
Now, let's take you, for example. Do you want to tell people your word, or you want to keep it secret?
My word is power. My word's power. No, it's not a secret. I don't keep anything a secret.
Okay, so tell me, what do you think about power?
Secrets don't make friends, Erin. Secrets don't make friends.
That's true. So what do you think about power? I mean, what's your relationship to power?
God, I would say for me personally, people look at me and they go, God, that's a powerful guy, right? I'm 245 pounds. I mean, like a quick Google search brings up like me punching somebody in the head, you know? So it just kind of encompasses like the exterior thing. The exterior impersonation of me is what I was, or I don't know what that word is. The exterior, what people think of me. Impression, sorry. And then I didn't have any true power until recently, and I found mine. And once I found mine, it's been my goal to help people find theirs. Mm-hmm. So it keeps it very simple for me. Exactly what you said. Am I helping? Am I finding my power, and am I putting pressure on you to find yours?
Exactly. So at any given moment in your life, you are leading either a more powerful existence or a less than powerful existence.
This is true. This is true. Give me, what's your dig word? Do you ever dig yourself?
Well, I trained somebody to dig. I have a few people who are my apprentices. And so one woman did do a dig on me a few years ago, and my word is authentic.
Okay.
And so at any given moment in my life, I'm either becoming a more real version of myself or becoming a more inauthentic version of myself. Now, the thing to know about the word, though, is that once you get to your word, it is your superpower, but it's also the thing that is just your dark side.
God damn, how did you know that about me?
And 100% of everybody else I've done a dig on, because this is the thing. It's like, I truly believe that this word, and it's not about the word itself. It's just like we're all spirits and bodies that are living a life at this time for some kind of purpose. And I believe that our souls come into this world and we are on some kind of mission. And the mission is to learn about this word. And so the learning, that's the important verb right there. I don't feel like we're supposed to come into these human bodies to be happy. I don't feel like whatever bigger power is out there, that's the goal, for us to be happy. I feel like we are here to learn things. So we're going to learn by being a teacher, and we're going to learn by being a student. You know, it's like how you're this amazing jiu-jitsu teacher, but you are always the student. You are always learning. And that's how we need to show up in the world.
God damn, you want to know what one of my biggest fears is? Is people tend to look at their jiu-jitsu teachers, their teachers, especially martial arts. They tend to look at their martial arts teachers like messiahs, you know? And one of my biggest fears is to take advantage of my power. Like, I literally just talked to my therapist about it yesterday, about some things that have gotten back to me about some students who I could take advantage of my power. And I was like, look, I have to make sure that I never do this. And it is literally one of the things that I am constantly like worried about stepping over. That is so crazy, because you've never said that to me, that it's our dark side as well. Because it's my goddamn dark side.
Yeah.
It's right there for me to do. It would be so easy for me to do.
So easy. And I mean, in my situation, even though I'm this person who, I've built this whole livelihood around getting to people's truth, and my word is authentic. So yeah, I'm really, really fucking good at it. And if you ask me what I want for lunch today, like, I'm probably going to have a hard time figuring that out, you know? Like, what do I really want? Like, what is, like, really being called forward for me right now? And it's a struggle I have all the time. Just what I want. What do I want for my business? Like, how much money do I want to make? I'm single right now. What kind of partner do I want? You know, and I'm like, well, that could work, and that could work, and that could work, and he could work. And what do you want? You know, and I struggle with that. So everybody has a word. Everyone has a struggle. And that is the power, though. Like, that's the learning. I don't feel like the goal should be to move away from the dark side. It should be to embrace the dark side. Like, for someone like you, who is so powerful and is so admired by people, to learn how to navigate power, and then you become the teacher to others on how to lead with their power too. Sometimes through your failures, which one of the things I admire most about you is how public you are with your failures.
It was forced upon me, right? Like, you know, when I wasn't so public, sometimes like 2 million people watched me get beat up, you know? So like to say that, like that, I mean, it's the reason that I loved fighting was because you couldn't run from them. It was right there. You couldn't deny what the truth was.
Yep.
And the reason that I think that fighting is so great is because it teaches you, if you listen to it in an authentic way, it teaches you to do that in your whole life. You know, and I was running from it in my life, and now I try to run at it and tell people about it. I guess, Erin, one of the things that I loved about working with you is it felt very authentic. I didn't, and that's your word. Like, I didn't feel like you were trying to sell me on something, or like you were like, okay, I have to get Eliot to do a talk. It was great because I came in wanting to talk, and my friend Scott Strode, who you had worked with, came in, like, introduced us like, Erin, Eliot has to do a talk. And then you turned it around. It was like, yeah, I don't know. You might do talks, but this is going to be your medium. So That's what
well, and the medium is important, like and for me, I'm always looking at these sorts of decisions or the advisements I make to my clients based on what is authentic for them. And what I knew was authentic for you, not just, we both knew you had a huge message to share. Everybody listening to this knows you have a big message to share. So that was clear. And choosing the medium that was going to work for your life equals a message that's actually going to get heard. Now, if we would have said, hey, Eliot, you came in here to be a speaker. Scott Strode set us up because you want to be a speaker. Let's make you a speaker, because that was the reason we came here. That would be such like a violation to your truth, because guess what? You're a family guy. You don't like to travel. You're running all these martial arts studios. You have a very busy life. And the reality about speaking is that it involves travel and involves a lot of appearances and those sorts of things, which isn't your top priority at the moment. But what you do is you get up in the middle of the night and you've got these brilliant ideas and you just want to like go on a rant. And I wanted you to be able to have a complete freedom to create when you want, where you want, how you want, say what you want, and be able to capture it. And I feel like podcasting for you was perfect. And this sort of example can be applied to really all of your listeners and anywhere in our life. When we get so attached to an idea of how something has to be, we lose sight of the authenticity of the reality of the situation. And on the other side of that, we could be really depriving the world of something great.
Tell us more about you. What have you done in your life? What have you done? What was before the dig? What was before Evoso?
I guess a lot of my story begins in 2001. I was living in New York City, working in documentary production and dabbling in reality TV, which is quite a lesson in authenticity or lack thereof. And I've always been I've always been a storyteller, though. So for me, it was just super engaging to be in people's stories, no matter what I was making a show about. And so I was doing that for about a year, thinking this was going to be my life, was being a TV producer. And then in June of 2001, I found out that one of my best friends had been murdered while fighting off an attacker in her apartment. And this was back in Illinois. And it was just one of those situations where it just kind of rocks a person of just, it like completely challenges reality for you. Whereas before I felt like reality was, for the most part, safe and linear and just, keep doing the right thing, be a good person, everything will be all right. To all of a sudden it was like the Matrix, man, like the dark side, the gritty, the evil. And
did you have kids yet? Were you married with kids or no?
I was not married with kids. I was like right out of college. I was 22 years old. 3 months to the day after she was murdered, 9/11 happened. And I was living in New York, and I was actually commuting every single day to the World Trade Center. And that particular day, it happened pretty early in the morning before I went into work. So I had not left home yet, but I was living in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is right across the river from New York City. And so I was able to really kind of watch just all of the mayhem of that day from my living room. And so within like a 90-day period, I had just this completely unsettling experience of violence in my personal life, and then this terrifying national experience of mass murder happening basically across the river from me. And it was just that kind of struggle. I feel like sometimes there's such a gift in our lives because we're able to get leveled, and you've talked a lot about that as we've had conversations about your stuff, about being on the mat and, somebody's really overpowering you. And those are the kind of moments where we can learn, where we can be humble.
It's time to be the nail. It sounds like this was some nail time for you, right? Like
it was nail time.
Yeah, the world was hammering down on you.
Yep.
And I think some people crumble here, and some people say, all right, here we go. This is that time's gonna make me. So go ahead. After that.
So after that, more than anything, I was just so afraid. I'm not a wafy woman. I'm like 5'8", 140, I'm pretty muscular. Nobody's like messing with me on a regular basis because of my attitude. So I've never felt really afraid of men. I've never felt really afraid of anyone. And all of a sudden, just in a moment, I felt terrified of everything. So I was like, you know what? I just need to learn how to fight. If for no other reason, just to get my mojo back so I could be confident again and walk through the world. Mm-hmm. And so I started taking self-defense classes in New York. then that led me to a week-long self-defense training at an FBI training facility in New Hampshire. Go for the gold, right?
Go for the whole thing, right? Like, why aim low?
Yeah, man, I was not messing around. I was like, I mean, nothing against like karate or anything, but like I didn't want to just like put on a little outfit and like go learn how to like fight somebody.
You can shit on karate. It's okay.
Okay, this is the right podcast.
This is the right podcast, especially the way it's taught now. Okay, like maybe 60 years ago, all those dudes were badasses, and if you're at a school where they stuck with that, then cool. But yeah, no, okay, you can shit on karate all you want.
Well, it's almost like I'm kind of shitting on a lot of martial arts that aren't reality-based, because really all I cared about, I didn't want to get a black belt. I wanted to not be raped and murdered while I slept.
Right,
and these are very different goals for coming to training. And I feel a lot of women feel that way. Like most women that I know, like a big driver in learning how to fight is fundamentally just wanting to know how to save our lives. It's not for the pure enjoyment all the time of like that kind of contact. For some women, I'm sure that is the case, but.
No, I'd agree with you. And I think it's one of those things I absolutely hate like women's self-defense seminars where you bring a woman in or a group of women in for a weekend and show them these moves that they're never going to do again, you know? And I'm just like, that is going to get you killed. Because really what you should be trying to do, if you're only going to do this weekend thing, you should still just run away. Just run. Run is going to be your best option of saving your life, which I would still say for almost 90% of people, even the trained ones, is get out of the situation. Like, don't be in the situation. Now, if you're in it, now we're talking a whole different scenario. So.
Well, yeah, and in the reality, especially for women, and this is, I dabbled in jiu-jitsu for a while, solely for the purpose of learning to ground fight, because over 80% of attacks against women go to the ground within minutes, and maybe within seconds, because that's where a man knows, in a lot of cases, an attacker knows he's going to be able to dominate a woman. But now if you turn the tables, I mean, women could be such amazing fighters on the ground, because now you're fighting with your legs and your ass and all the, where your power is, versus like going bicep to bicep with a guy. That's just.
Well, all of us are amazing fighters on the ground if you know how to do it.
True.
And your statistic of 80 it's actually 92. 90, well, it's one of our selling points. 92% of all, and I won't say just against women, again, 92% of all altercations end up in a grappling type scenario. So it's a very essential skill, in my opinion. Like, it's rule number one for my boys for many reasons, and that's one of them, is they have to know how to do jiu-jitsu.
Well, I always used to talk about just learning self-defense is like, it should be like learning to swim. And it's, it's a survival skill.
You must have met me, Erin, because my rule number one is jiu-jitsu, and my rule number two is they have to swim. So we must have talked about this before. You're setting me up to look like a genius.
The parenting philosophy of Eliot.
Yes.
But like in our, especially for women, in our society, it's like to go to even one of those weekend seminars, I would say the percentage of women that actually go and do that is so incredibly small, because fundamentally we're afraid all the time. And so for me at that time in 2001, between the national terrorism fear plus the smaller scale interpersonal violence, I mean, I was just crippled. So I was like, I need to learn to fight. So the more I learned to fight, the more confident I got. And then the more I realized, you know what? I should have learned this in college. I should have learned basics about prevention, about how to get out of situations, how to fuse situations, and if absolutely necessary, how to fight. And then I look around, start doing research, and I see that the only people who are really doing that sort of training are like the campus cops, and most students don't always have the best relationship with campus cops. And so I was like, that's just the wrong dynamic.
We're trying to drink. We're trying to drink, and they're trying to shut us down.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So it's just, but that's just the power dynamic. That's, and so, and it's fine, but maybe that shouldn't be the person who's teaching these people about a skill that could fundamentally save their life one day. And so I started thinking, you know what? I was a sorority president. I know how to talk to women. I'm 22 years old, and my friend was just murdered. Who are they going to listen to more than me? And so I started my first company when I was 22, and I called it Girls Fight Back. And I got a bunch more certifications, studied with people all over the world, and really wanted to put together a seminar that focused on proven survival strategies for women. But I delivered it in a way that was more like stand-up comedy. Because one thing I know about anybody who's sitting afraid in a seminar room is that if they're sitting there and they're afraid, they're not going to be able to learn. And so I was able to use really public speaking and comedy as a means to get people to relax, because when they're laughing, they're listening. And when they're listening, they're learning. When they're learning, some change can actually happen. And so the Girls Fight Back seminar became this 90-minute one-woman show where we taught the basics of self-defense. But what we did was we focused on delivering the seminar to be very educational but interactive and funny. And then we formed partnerships with martial arts and self-defense schools all over the world. And then we had a free listing of where in their town they could go and get the best training.
Huh. Very interesting. I never knew this about you.
Yeah, that was
we
12 years.
Do you still have anything to do with Girls Fight Back?
So in 2013, I sold the company.
Okay.
And I sold it to my talent agent in Los Angeles. She had been booking all of our Girls Fight Back speaking engagements for years at that point. And, I'll tell you the weird story of what led me to that decision, though, because I was doing it for 12 years. And I would say by, the 10-year mark, I was definitely itching to, do something else and maybe, go through one day and not talk about rape or murder. That
sure
starts to get kind of heavy. And also, when you're, working in this industry, after I'd give a seminar to 1,000 people, I'd have 100 people waiting for me at the end, and they don't want to ask a question. They want to tell me their story. And it's usually a pretty disturbing one. And so after a decade of that, it started wearing me down. But I kept feeling like, but I started this company for my friend, Shannon McNamara was her name. And, I feel like Shannon's legacy is tied up in this. And if I don't do this anymore, then, am I letting her down? And this, Eliot, is where the inauthenticity starts to creep in, right? When we start living our life, in my case, for someone who's not even alive.
Sure.
And if she was alive, she'd be smacking me across the face and being like, Weed, what are you doing? Go live your life.
She would not tell you to live for her.
No, absolutely not. But I was getting caught in that trap,
Right,
how many people, I got to go be a lawyer because my dad expects that of me. It's just fuck that plan. Go live the life you need to live. But so I went through that for a few years, actually, just wrestling internally. And then I ended up having my daughter. So she was my second child. And, she was just one of those, unplanned but very much wanted type of situations. And this is crazy, though. I end up giving birth to my daughter on Shannon's birthday.
Ooh.
June 21st.
June 21st. Wow, that's...
The summer solstice, longest day of the year.
Huh, very interesting.
I know. I mean, totally, couldn't have...
And I'm not a God believer, right? I'm not that's just not how I roll. I'm not, or a God that cares about us anyway. So but these kind of situations are always very random and make me think. They make me think, Erin. So what do you think about that?
Well, I made 2 calls right after she was born. First I called my mom, and then I called Shannon's mom.
Okay.
And I just remember just crying on the phone with Shannon's mom and just being like, I feel like Shannon's saying it's okay to go. It's okay. And Cindy's like, Shannon wants you to do whatever you want to do. And I just remember having this beautiful baby in my arms and talking to Shannon's mom and just having a moment of okay, it's time to let go. And so I ended up selling the company, and the Evoso thing, which is my current company, came about because after I sold my company, I was like, well, what do I do next? What do I know how to do? Doing the assessment of your skill set, when you're out of a job, essentially. And I was like, well, I know how to speak. That's something I've done in front of 1 million people over the past 12 years, so I can do that in my sleep. Let's go. And TEDx Boulder was having an event soon. And so I reached out to them and was like, hey, do you need a coach? They were like, yeah. Matched me up with a woman. And I did on her, which you now have experienced as the dig, which is essentially this interview process to get someone down to one word. And in the process, though, extracting all of their best content, stories, lessons, bigger universal truths, and putting them into a flow that feels really good to communicate and really clear. And so I did this for a few TED speakers, and then they started going viral. And I was like, all right, I think we got something here.
The speakers went viral? Is what happened?
Yeah, the speakers went viral.
Who are they?
One of them was Erica Napolitano.
Okay.
She was my first client ever, and she was a pretty public person, and actually ended up blogging about my process, which at the time I didn't even have a name for. And it was almost like I had a company overnight. And then the second client that went really viral was Ash Beckham, who is now one of the top 10 most viewed TEDx talks of all time. That
was at Boulder, right? She talked about she works at the Walnut Cafe. Is that Ash?
That's right. Yep.
Yes.
Coming out of your closet, Ash Beckham.
Yes. All right.
And,
I watched that one. That one was really good.
She's amazing. But it comes down to that, figuring out what's your word. What are you really talking about here? I mean, you could tell your stories all day long, but Ash's word was freedom. And she gave a talk about all of us coming out of our closet. Even if you're not gay or you're not living some secret life, we all have lived in closets at some point. And her universal truth that we came to in the speech development process was all a closet is a hard conversation. And so when we can get to our truth and then boil down to those universal truths. Now it doesn't matter for Ash. I mean, she's a very, she's often mistaken for a man. She's a lesbian. So she's all sorts of things that maybe a old white guy from the South wouldn't identify with. But now once you get to a universal truth, all a closet is a hard conversation. Now that guy can get in the raft with her. Because I'm sure there's been some situation in his life where he's had a really hard time confessing something to someone. All of us have that.
That's amazing because, in Ash's case, her come out of your closet thing, we're all not that different,
Right.
We're all very similar. We have a mom and dad. We have people that we would love to care about, and that we would love to care about us. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing else to it. We're trying to live a decent life, and raise our kids well. If you have kids, whatever, and whether we're here or to be happy or not is a question. I know you said that you don't think we're here to be happy, but we would all like to be happy. Do you disagree with that?
Yes, but I see happiness as being a byproduct of being in alignment with your truth.
So you do disagree with that? You don't think that we want to be happy?
Well, I think everybody wants to be happy, but I don't feel like many people construct their lives intentionally to actually achieve that feeling. Well, the only way you're going to be happy is if you're in alignment with your truth.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, no. It's one of those things it's also what we've been told a little bit. Go get educated, get a job, make sure you have health insurance, and buy a house, right? Have kids, and then you'll be happy, right? Yep. And I think for most of us that answer is no. That none of that made me happy. I don't think did any of that make you happy?
Not really. I mean, there's the basic fundamental safety of just having the things you need in life in order to function and survive. But it's amazing how much we are fed other people's opinions of what happiness should be, and how much, even parents or loved ones, people who want the best for us, can project upon us what they think will make us happy.
Right. So now this is what you do. I mean, I see you all over Instagram. You're digging. I mean, you just dug somebody. I don't know. It was last week. I checked them out. They had, hugely successful people. Who do you help dig? I mean, are you only working with high-profile clients, or do you take on anybody?
Well, it started off working mostly with TED speakers and thought leaders, and then a few years into it, I've been doing it for 6 years now.
Okay.
I started realizing, this is bigger than just getting a message out there. This is just a fundamental understanding of self and purpose. And so I started expanding who I was doing digs on, and I started conducting the dig for inner city youth, just to understand themselves better and communicate better. And then I feel really passionate about doing digs for the dying, people who are in terminal late stage illness.
Fuck, you like to suffer, girl.
Oh, I don't see that as suffering. I feel what more authentic place could we get to outside of like being handed a diagnosis like you
What's
have
that
eczema.
like? What's that like to consistently, I mean, I wish I could do it, but what is that like to consistently talk about people that are dying? Well, I'm sorry,
Well,
not about to. What do they get to?
Well, it's really the same as anybody else's dig. It's just they're doing it for different reasons. They want to understand.
Yeah, I know. I want to know what they say. What is that conversation like?
I could tell you a specific story about one of my best friends who I lost last October. Her name is Ruthie Wellhausen.
Yeah,
and
you just dressed up the other day like Wonder Woman for her, right?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story about it. So it makes sense. So she was one of my best friends, sorority sisters at college, and was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer a few years ago. She was in her late 30s, 3 kids, married, living in the suburbs in Chicago, like just completely random in a lot of ways, unfortunately becoming less random. So that happened, but it was going on for a few years, and so it was almost in my mind starting to feel like almost like a manageable disease in some ways.
Right.
And I did a TEDx talk at TEDx Boulder last September, and when I gave the talk, I told a story about Ruthie, of how this one time I had gone home to drive her to a chemo appointment, and she loves Starbucks. It's her favorite thing in the world. And so before I picked her up for her chemo appointment, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do a quick Starbucks run to bring her something. But that particular day, I thought it'd be funny. Like, I get these random last minute ideas. I was like, she loves Wonder Woman. It's like her heroine. It was like her whole brand of fighting her illness. Everything was Wonder Woman. So I was like, how funny would it be if I like show up with the Starbucks dressed as Wonder Woman? And just thinking it'd be fun. But then I was like, okay, well, now I'm dressed as Wonder Woman. I have to go into Starbucks. And it's like a very corporate kind of Starbucks location. Everybody in there is wearing business suits, and it's a Friday morning.
Are you in Chicago?
Yeah, I was in St. Charles, Illinois.
Okay.
And I was like, so I'm sitting in my car. I'm like, okay, am I really going to do this? Am I going to go into a Starbucks dressed like this? You know? And I was like, fuck it, let's go. And so I walk into this Starbucks, and like just record player screeching, everyone stops and looks at this woman in like full Wonder Woman gear. In Boulder, you can get away with that kind of stuff. In suburban Chicago, you're going to turn every head in the room.
Yeah, people are going to call you on some bullshit that you're doing.
Totally. Well, and so what I talked about in the TEDx talk when I told this story was this became an opportunity to be either inauthentic or authentic. And as I started talking with people, and they're laughing, and one woman just came up to me and she's like, hey, like, I just need to know why you're dressed up like that right now. Like, what is happening here? And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, do I really like throw down this whole dark story of why I'm really here and what I'm really doing? And, you know, how many times do we filter from the perspective of, I don't want to be too much, or sure, I don't want to depress somebody with what's really going on with me? And so there was like in a flash, it was all going through my head, like, and this question of how real do you want to be? I was like, I want to be real. I don't know who this woman is, but she asked me a direct question. I'm going to give her a direct answer. So I looked her in the eyes and said, hey, you know, I have one of my best friends who's got terminal cancer, and I am taking her to chemo today, and I just wanted to brighten her mood a little bit. And so here I am at Starbucks, going to bring her a drink, and there we go. and this woman was just so incredibly moved, and she was like, you have no idea what you just did for me. And then she turned around and walked out. So something in her entire being shifted, and she went off and she took care of something. And I don't know where she was going or what she was doing.
You've never seen her again. You've never talked to her again.
Never seen her again. But there, like in that interaction, in that moment, this magic. Yeah. When you meet people at this real place, all of us have the opportunity to leave people better than we found them. And I don't think she went into her car and started crying. I think she went and she did something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, so I told that story in the TEDx talk, thinking, oh, Ruthie's still doing, like, you know, air quotes, okay for a terminal patient.
Right.
And then like about a week after the TEDx talk, she called me and told me like all options were done, and she probably had a matter of weeks. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it completely blew up my world. And then the week after that, I ended up flying home, and she wanted to have a living memorial, which for anybody who's never heard of that before, they're not common, but it's basically you having your own funeral while you're still alive. And so she asked me to basically run it, like essentially be the MC of her living memorial, which is probably the hardest speaking engagement I've ever had. You know, you don't want to mess that one up.
Yeah,
and
you think?
So I pulled together all these like speakers from her life, like, from childhood, from her professional years, from her college years, and she was sitting there the whole time, and it was like the most amazing, beautiful night of love. And then, but the night before that, I did a dig on her.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah, I want to know that. What was that like?
Well, we stayed up till 3 a.m, and you know, like, imagine the next day you're gonna be hosting your own funeral.
Yeah.
Like, imagine the raw.
And then within a week you're gonna die.
Yeah. And so basically, I interviewed her, and we audio recorded the whole thing, and I was just getting to her word, and we finally got to her word, which was C, like SEE.
Uh-huh.
And basically, like, she just always had this amazing ability to see how people needed to be loved, to see people for who they were. And so it was just this whole conversation about that. And to answer your earlier question of like, what is someone who's in that position? What are they saying? They just say things so forcefully and simply and clearly because she doesn't have time to mess around, you know? And one of the biggest quotes that I took out of her dig that day, which I used in the living memorial the next day, was she just said so simply, Weed, that's what everybody calls me, it's my last name.
Right.
You got to own it. Weed, my job here was to love people, period.
Right.
And I just remember asking her, do you feel like you've accomplished that job? And she's like, I've done my best. And I don't know. It was a weird thing when that dig was over. And
I've never even met her, and I'm slightly tearing. Like, I just the way, just what it's like to actually dig someone or talk to someone about their being while they're still here. Because it's such a scary thing, right? Like, somewhere in the back of your head, even though the doctors are like, you got a week to live or whatever, you got to be like, I'm going to fight this shit. And then, but to sit down and then talk about, nope, this is it. When you're still coherent, right? Like, she was still coherent. She wasn't like.
Oh yeah, she was completely coherent, almost until the very end. She slipped into a coma a few days before she passed, but she was more coherent than she's ever been. And it was such a gift for her to get that self-understanding, and it was such a gift for me to witness it. Right. And it was such a gift that the next day we were able to then take her authentic message and spread it out to that room of 150 people who came from all over the world. And then I decided at the last minute, I was like, how cool if we Facebook Live the whole memorial. And so I set up my phone like on the podium.
On tripod, yeah.
But we had thousands of people who tuned in. And that just kind of goes to show all of us that, I mean, and you don't have to be dying to get really clear about who you are and what your message is and share it with people. And like, you can change people's lives. And that's why I do the work that I do.
Why do you exist?
I exist to be as real as I can be.
And what does that mean for you?
That's the fun part about existing, is that it's for me an everyday new experience. And right. I think you and I really share a lot of views on parenting. And I also have 2 children. And I try to every day look at my kids and just see the most real version of who they are as well. And so doing constantly that internal and external work, because if like we can be looking for what's real, what's authentic right now, I believe that's always getting us closer to truth.
The present moment.
The present moment. You can't be fully authentic if you're not there.
It's a tough thing for people to be, though, because we're always looking for what's next or what came last, you know?
Yep.
And I want to say that can get tricky for people. But you're right, to be authentic. If you want to truly be authentic, whether it be in your life or in someone else's life, you have to be in the actual moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, Erin, that story, that was amazing. I didn't know what to say. You know, I'm not one to be quiet very often. You had me quiet. So let's tell people where they can find you on social media or any of your websites or platforms.
Yeah, I'm Erin Weed, so ErinWeed.com. And I'm at Erin Weed on pretty much all social media. So would love to say hello.
Sounds good. Well, Erin, I appreciate you. You got this whole thing going for me. And I am loving my being authentic and helping people find their power. So it's been the book in the box or the scribe media, whatever it is, it's been amazing for me. Like, I don't care if I don't have to sell a single book and it will be worth the price tag for me. And the price, and you know, and I think when we talk, like the price tag the price tag's $25,000. So it's not a low price tag. And I haven't even started scribing. We've only outlined. And I'm going to say that it's worth it already.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to read that book. It's definitely going to be worth it for you.
You will definitely get a copy. You are definitely going to get a copy, girl.
An autographed copy? Better.
Whatever you want. You'll get whatever kind of copy you want. You will get whatever kind of copy you want. Autograph, no autograph, you know? So.
Awesome. Well, thanks for bringing your voice to the world. I really appreciate you for all you are.
Thanks for helping me get my voice to the world. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Erin.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel of Fire. Hit me up on my social media at FireMarshal205 on both Twitter and Instagram. Give me a follow at my fan page on Facebook, Eliot the Fire Marshal. Give a subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you're listening. Throw a review up there. We'd greatly appreciate it. We'll see you on the next episode.